EU officials and German politicians have vented their frustration at Greece, with time running out for reaching a debt deal. One diplomat described as amateurish Greece's attempts to unlock bailout funds from the EU and IMF. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras said it was up to international creditors to turn to realism. But Germany's European Commissioner said if talks failed, Greece would come under a state of emergency. Without a cash for reforms debt deal with the EU and IMF, Greece is expected to default on a euro 1.5 bn, pound 1.1 bn, dollar 1.7 bn, debt repayment to the IMF due by the end of the month. The Athens government's bailout deal with the EU also runs out on June 30, and Mr Tsipras has been trying to unlock the final euro 7.2 bn installment. European Commissioner Guenther Oettinger, who is also a member of German Chancellor Angela Merkel's centre-right CDU, said that on July 1 Greece would have to be considered an emergency area, affecting police salaries, medicines, energy, and other fields. CDU figures in Germany lined up to criticize Greece's position, with Deputy Party leader Volker Bouffier condemning Greek demands as unrealistic and Julia Klöckner from the party executive accusing Mr Tsipras of overplaying his hand. Even the head of the center-left Social Democrats, SPD, in Germany's coalition, Sigmar Gabriel, who has been seen as more sympathetic to the Greek position, warned the Athens government that time was running out. Everywhere in Europe, the sentiment is growing that enough is enough, he wrote in Bild newspaper. One European Union official said the clock was already at 5 past midnight, and although Eurozone finance ministers were poised for last-ditch talks on Thursday, at this stage there's nothing to discuss. European Central Bank President Mario Draghi said emergency credit would continue to be provided for Greek banks as long as they were solvent and have sufficient collateral, but he refused to say what might happen if Greece missed any debt repayments. Speaking to Greek newspaper Ephemerida Tun Mr Tsipras warned that further cuts to pensions after 5 years of looting under the bailouts can only be viewed as serving political expediency. We will patiently wait until creditors turn to realism. We have no right to bury the European democracy in the land where it was born. But European Commission spokeswoman Annika Breithard rejected his assertion that creditors were seeking pension or wages cuts. They only wanted Athens to phase out early retirement and remove incorrect incentives for early retirement. Greece had already agreed to specific targets for its primary surplus, she said, with 1% of GDP this year, followed by 2% in 2016 and 3.5% by 2018. What was important was agreeing how to achieve that. She said a deal had been reached on changes to VAT rates, with a standard rate of 23%, a second reduced rate of 13% and another super reduced rate of 6% on books and medicines. However, while creditors were expecting annual savings of 1% of GDP in pensions and VAT, Greece later presented calculations that indicated far smaller reductions. As much as euro 1.8 bn had been expected in pension savings, but Greece came up with only 71 million euros, the spokeswoman said. IMF chief economist Olivier Blanchard, in a blog post, explained that Greece needed to reduce pension expenditure, which already accounted for more than 16% of GDP, by 1% of GDP. He also argued it could be done while protecting the poorest pensioners. As pressure on Greece intensified, shares in Greece tumbled, with some bank stocks falling by more than 10%. In a further sign of widespread German frustration, the head of the influential IFO Institute for Economic Research, Hans-Werner Sinn, said he believed the Berlin government should refuse further funding for the Greek economy. A leading MP in Mr Tsipras's left-wing Syriza party, Deputy Speaker Alexis Mitropoulos, said if talks failed the Prime Minister would have to consider either a referendum or fresh elections. Mr Tsipras's Syriza-led coalition swept to power in late January, with an anti-austerity mandate.